Hey, good morning. It's our last weekend in Houston. And I'm not sad at leaving Houston. I am very happy to get out of here. But I'm feeling like an overwhelm with like the possibility of life ahead of me. I don't know. I'm in my feelings like crazy. And I think it's just, I really feel like this next move is gonna be the right move. I don't know. Hi, my name is Fats. Welcome to my corner of the World Wide Web. This is Tchai, my co-host, and we have 3 books left in Summerween. I have a literary option, a murderous unhinged woman option, and a haunting. I think I want to start my weekend with, let's start literary. We're gonna start literary. And I don't know, this last weekend I tried to make plans. I was like, we're gonna go to a state park. We're gonna do all these big things. I'm gonna go to this museum again. But I think I want to go get a breakfast sandwich from my favorite vegan bakery. And then I'm gonna go sit at the coffee shop with the wraparound porch that I really like. And then tomorrow, I'm going to rest and read and prepare for a life change, I guess. I don't know. I'm feeling really weird and I can't quite put a pinpoint on what's feeling weird. And what's even worse about that is the literary book that we chose is like a representation of grief, haunting, and changed personhood. So I'm going into this already feeling a lot of things, but let's run to Sinful Bakery, get the breakfast sandwich that I'm obsessed with. It's like a pretzel bun breakfast sandwich with veggie sausage, egg replacement. It sounds so gross when I explain things like in a vegan way. So let me explain it in a not so vegan way, because that sounded gross. It has sausage, egg, jam, and then this like spicy aioli mixed in with the jam. And then it's on this very soft pretzel bun, and it has a little layer of like this sharp cheese. It's so good, and I'm going to miss them so much. They also are known for having the best, biggest vegan cinnamon rolls. I just don't think I'm in a cinnamon roll mood. I'm definitely in a savory mood, but we'll see when we get there because I'm saying my goodbyes. And then on top of that, I'm thinking I want to go to my favorite used bookstore at some point this weekend. We're going together, don't worry about it. I've shown it to you once before on the channel, but I want to, I don't know, I kind of want to walk those stacks one more time, say goodbye to my favorite used bookstore, and I don't know, read some horror. Kind of glad that this is a horror weekend because like the horror, being scared, it'll take me out of all of these feelings. I also have mentally planned within this weekend that I just need to sit with my journal, and I do want to do like a reflect on how I felt about Houston, reflect and sit down and like what do I want out of this next stage in my life. And I've literally written that down on my to-do list. Sit down, journal, reflect, sit with my feelings. I'm not sitting with my feelings right now. Right now, we're reading some horror. We're gonna go get a breakfast sandwich and then we're gonna go to coffee. Right now, we're not feeling anything. Oh my goodness. Am I gonna cry during this vlog? Let's go do some self-care. Let's self-soothe. Let's nurture our heart and our soul before a big life change. And it's not even like, it feels like a huge life change. I still have the same job. I'm still me, still him. I'm still, let's not even think about it. We're not dealing with those emotions right now. Let's get into a mother who misses her son so much she grows him back from a piece of his lung. I just got to the bookstore, but before I step in, I really just need to just shoot off some first thoughts. I'm at page 63 in Monstrilio, and it's eerie, and I can't quite get my head wrapped around why it's so eerie. And I think it's just the premise, because this book does open up with a woman growing her son back from a piece of his lung, right? Her son was born with a singular lung, so that is a big part of who he is. That is a big part of how she understood her son. And it's actually the reason why he passed, the fact that his singular lung couldn't uphold him anymore, and he passed at the age of 11, right? Well, this lung is growing back, and it's described as being shaped like a ball, and then it has this appendage at the end of it. And I just read a scene where it latches onto the family's dog, and she's holding the ball trying to get it off the dog, right? And she's like, oh, it feels like a heartbeat. I think it's gulping. And I don't know what it is. Like, I am feeling like an uncomfortable, grossed out feeling constantly in this book, and I'm not sure why, because a lot of the other horror books I've read, much more scary and horrifying monster things are happening, and this is just a lung creature, alien looking type of thing, but it's horrifying. And I don't know if it's the way that it's written or if it's the tone, because you're dealing with this woman in grief. Her relationship's falling apart. Her family's telling her how to grieve. She's dealing with all of these things, and then around it, she is a mother. And I don't know if that tone is adding to it, but it's a gross feel. Not gross, I'm scared I need to put it down, but goodness gracious, it's giving me like goosebumps when I read these scenes, and it's like, oh, like that's what I'm feeling. I'm like, oh, like constantly. We're gonna step in here. When we get back to the house, I'm gonna read you the section that I just read, just so you can hear how, like, the words being used and how this is written, because it is literary. I do have that literary feel. Is that it? How is it? How intimately literary fiction is written, because I do have a very intimate relationship with this mother and her feelings and her grief. Is that it? I don't know. Let's go book shopping. I'm going to sit on it for a second, but when we get back to the house, I'm going to read you that section, because it's giving me a lot of feels, and I can't quite put my finger on why this book is doing more than other books. Great book so far. Great book. The fact that I'm feeling these things, stars are being given right now. I just need to sit on it a second before I can accurately talk to you. Let's go book shopping.
Under control, she basically comes out of the medical funk that she was in, kind of writes her social life, and she starts writing these big historical novels, really thick ones, and they're good in everything, but they're not as good in their own way as the short, scathing ones are.
So which one's your favorite?
I think probably Every Day is Mother's Day is the one that I like. Flood is very good.
Yeah, why do you like that one better?
The basis for it is more everyday. This takes a character, the devil, and goes from there. Whereas this builds up just a kind of everyday life for people that are living way out on the fringes of, at least the psychic fringes of things, but it's an everyday sort of thing.
How did you feel about Wolf Hall in comparison then?
She's obviously an incredibly intelligent woman. She always has elicited with the historical fiction a grasp of historical account and stuff like that. So when she starts this, she's exactly the person to do it. So Wolf Hall starts amazingly, and it does not stop. It just goes straight. But I think when she got about a third of the way through the first book, she recognized that she had a trilogy. So,
and you can feel that as
you
read
it. Very much.
Oh my goodness!
So for the second one, she puts the clutch in a little bit to kind of give herself the ability to ramp it up towards the third one. So it isn't as extraordinary as this is. It's still very good, but it's not this. But the third one, I guarantee you, she does something in it that is just
You guys
tremendous.
didn't have it. Nobody would give it up.
Yeah. Well, so you got the first two.
Yeah.
Come back in a month and a half.
Do you recommend I start here then?
Yes, that's what I would do.
With your favorite?
I'd start with Flood.
Okay, good.
That's because that's her first one.
And then see how do you feel her grow as a writer by the time you get here?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Hey, good evening. I finished Monstrilio today. It was one of those books that I couldn't just get through in one sitting, slam through it. I did have to take it in multiple chunks. Okay, I have a lot of thoughts about it actually. My overall thought is that the amount of 5-star reviews and hype around this book on Goodreads, I personally felt like this book was incorrectly marketed from those reviews, and the way that people talk about it did give me a different impression of what I've actually got. Now, I came into this looking for scary monster Frankenstein boy born of a piece of his lung and wreaks havoc or something like that, right? This was like a coming of age story. It was a story of grief, the effects of grief, how people reacted and the ugliness of that grief and what comes out of it. And like I said, you follow this character and you grow with them slowly and steadily. Now, I actually gave this quite a low rating, mostly because in the sense that this was written as a coming of age story and a presentation of grief, I felt as if the way that this was written and the way these characters were written didn't allow nuance, which, okay, I say that, and there were representations of grief that show different versions of how people dealt with it. However, each person in their nuance didn't have any depth outside of that specific nuance and character theme, it felt. I was able to understand how they were going through grief, and I related to the representation of grief, but I didn't relate to the characters. While this did give me gross and eerie and horrifying, it didn't give me fear. When I started this series and I did my TBR, I talked about atmosphere and intrigue and actual just terror when it comes to these books. And I would say that this one lacked atmosphere, and gave intrigue and lacked terror. This was mostly intrigue for me. And I think due to the fact that those other aspects of horror that I said this makes a good horror were kind of missing, I don't know how I felt about this. As a literary work, this is fantastic. As a piece of literary fiction, this is an amazing, weird lit with pieces of scariness within it. And I would say that maybe, I don't know if it's my expectations that came into this and almost ruined my experience, but the last time I talked to you about this book, before I stepped into the bookshop, I did want to read you the scene. Oh, good job. I did want to read you the scene where this monster latches on to the dog. Just so I can give you like a sense of how this writing style gave me the creeps for some reason, while the writing style worked well to give me the creeps, it didn't work well to build a bridge between me and the characters. In this scene, the mother has grown her son back from a piece of a lung, but right now, the way this lung is shaped is it has this prehensile tail and this watermelon-sized body. And it kind of like hangs and swings from the ceiling, it hangs out, it hides, and it's very squishy. It has a lung texture, and it also has small patches of this wiry, dark black to gray fur along it. That night, I was lying in bed, drifting in and out of sleep, when I heard a yelp, then another one, then a howl and a door slam. I wasn't sure I was dreaming or awake. Then Jackie screamed. I threw the blankets off me and ran down to the kitchen. I stumbled through the dark, another yelp, then a growl. Almendra, Jackie shouted. I walked out to the narrow passageway opening into the backyard and a patio flanked by the laundry room, an area for drying clothes, and Jackie's room. I found Jackie holding a broom high above her. She was trying to untangle it from the clothesline. Almendra snarled. Maybe she'd become feral, but then I saw with the help of the moonlight the lung attached to Almendra's hindquarters. No, Jackie. She would swat the lung away from Almendra. She only needed to get the broom unstuck. I held the broom. Jackie tried to wrestle it away from me. I pulled. She pulled. The clothesline wouldn't hold much longer. Please, Jackie. No. I knelt by the dog, trying to figure out a way to remove the lung without hurting it or Almendra. I held the lung's body with both hands. Through its squishiness, I felt something akin to a heartbeat. Stronger. Like a gulping. The lung seemed to be drinking. I pulled the lung. It wouldn't budge. I pulled harder. The lung remained glued. I stopped pulling, afraid that I used too much force. I might tear a chunk out of Almendra. I grabbed the lung's tail arm instead, right below its claws. With my thumb and index finger, I squeezed what I thought would be its wrist. With my other hand, I tried to pry its claws out of Almendra. The lung wouldn't let go. I squeezed its wrist harder, digging in my nails. The lung squeaked, its arm loosened. I pulled it off and held it away from Almendra's butt. Now that I read it out loud, maybe my issue was the lack of sentence structure and the variety around that. These are very short sentences, and they're just subject, verb, object. So maybe my issue is the terseness of the story. But anyways, a mother grows her son back from a lung. And he, of course, is not what he used to be. But the way the story handles it is it becomes a story of this thing that has come back. This is not your son. This is something different. And having to grieve again and again and again. You're not only grieving a lost son, you're grieving a lost life, you're grieving a lost future possibility, you're grieving a lost relationship structure, you're grieving the loss of the title of mother. You lose so much in this. So I would say, if you read this book, please be in the space to handle a story of losing a child. I do know that can be a very triggering topic. There is also quite a lot of sex in this book, and nobody's relationship with sex in this book is healthy. So if that is a triggering topic for you, don't. But at the same time, if you are interested in a literary piece that delves into grieving and validation and filling the void with any aspect of connection, which does present itself as an unhealthy relationship in sex, this does that. I didn't rate it. It's well written. It's very well written. I can see myself buying this book. I can see myself annotating this book, and I did get the creeps from this book. I took off so many stars because to feel so disconnected from the characters in a book like this could have been a life-changing story if I had felt that, if that makes sense. I also might need to sit on it a little bit longer and think about it. Not sure. It also felt like it was dragging on a bit too long. I did get kind of tired of it. It's about 320 pages. There hit a point at page like 250 where I was like, okay, like what are we doing? Like how are we going? Like what's happening here? That's Monstrilio. I am 20 pages into Maeve Fly. Let me give you the first chapter, because goodness gracious, did it open up. So for my TBR, I only read the first paragraph, and that first paragraph got me, but when you hear the entire first front and back page, every man shares the same fantasy, and it is this. He will marry a universally beloved sweetheart, live a noble life, and succeed in all the ways his father taught were best. And when he stands at the pinnacle of filial and paternal achievement, when he has finally reached that great height of goodness, honor, and inarguable virility, then and only then his wife, child, and pet should be ripped from him, violently, unforgivably, restoring ultimately freedom, because he has done the good thing, the right thing, and only then become the victim of its vanishing. This virtuous man may now turn with the full support of any onlooker to violence, rage, nihilism, and debauchery, which were his ultimate true aims all along, to lose himself in the glorious sanctioned rapture of retribution. How many husbands of wives have lined up at the box office to live out this exact fantasy that they deeply, fundamentally, and brutally desire? Men are insipid, stupid creatures. Here is the truth, the one that so few of us know. You do not need a moral and noble story to do what you want. You do not first need to be a victim to become a monster. Your loved ones need not be taken from you so that you might drink and brutalize and chase the sublime. Life is fleeting and meaningless and crying to be seized from behind and effed into obscurity. This is my story, and you cannot control it. No more than you can the ever lower dangle of your sex or the warming of this fat lay prison rock floating in the semen-splotched dark. My name is Maeve Fly. I work at the happiest place in the world. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. As the beginning of an unhinged murderous woman story, this is feminism. This is feminism. This is feminism. Serial killer lady, cool, great, we got it, yes. I haven't gotten into it, but that tone, I'm having a good time with. I'm having a good time with it. It's been a few days. I didn't forget about you. I have some final thoughts on some books. First, Maeve Fly. This is graphic. This is graphic, this is graphic, this is graphic. I started off really liking this, but as we built up into the second half of the book, there are some intense torture scenes. And I love the tone, I love the character, like Disney princess by day, murderer by night. And I thought this feminist representation of a serial killer was gonna be like a man killer. No. I gave up men serial killers and I literally just put a woman in their place. But the juxtaposition of genuinely loving her job in this Disneyland place, as I believe she's like an Elsa character, and how much she also feels like violent at night. The way that was written and the transitions between the two, great, fun. I could not read any more graphic torture. I had to DNF. The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the perfect slow build horror. Perfect. The most perfect slow build horror. In that it allowed me to feel that anxious fear for the entirety of the book. Now, if you're looking for fast-paced, jump scare, intense, that's not this. This is very slow, steady. It builds, and then the ending dissipates into this like heartfelt moment. You have heartfelt moments in here. You get representation in here. And I do think the characters were well developed. And I think that's why I was able to sit with something so slow. But this isn't the kind of book that I personally could sit with and smash out in a singular sitting. However, I don't see this as... This isn't a 5-star for me, you know? Which is weird because it hits all of my points. It has intrigue, it has atmosphere, it has terror. It hit all the points. However, I don't know what the however is. I didn't end it and I was like, best horror book of all time. I can see why Stephen Graham Jones is popular. I can see that he's developed himself into this genre, and I can see why people go to this book. But I don't know. I was scared. I don't know what's lacking for me. It's just, you know that feeling when you finish a 5-star book. You know that feeling. I just didn't have that feeling this time. I'll have to sit on it a bit more. Hopefully I have better thoughts at some other point, but those are my final thoughts. Summerween has drawn to a close. This was fun. I enjoyed this. I wish I didn't overwhelm myself with so many books. I didn't take into account at all how many audiobooks I would be reading. So I still read the number of books I wanted to. I just had some surprises in there along the way. I hope you're reading good books. I hope you're having an amazing week. And I'll talk to you next time.